Alabama football is sitting at a massive crossroads as we head into the 2026 season, and the quarterback battle unfolding in Tuscaloosa is going to dictate exactly how this year plays out. With Ty Simpson moving on to the NFL after getting drafted 13th overall by the Rams, head coach Kalen DeBoer is forced to name a new starter for the second consecutive season. This isn't just your standard camp battle, where the older guy with the most time in the system automatically gets the nod. This is a fundamental choice about the entire identity of the offense under offensive coordinator Ryan Grubb. You have an incredibly young, talented roster waiting to see who is going to lead them into a brutal SEC schedule. The guy who takes that first snap against East Carolina is going to set the tone for whether Alabama is contending for a national title or getting left behind in the expanded playoff era. To really grasp why this competition is so intense, you have to look at what DeBoer and Grubb actually demand from their quarterbacks. This isn't the Nick Saban era where you just hand the ball off 30 times and play dominant defense. This scheme is entirely built on pre-snap motion, isolating defenders in space and forcing the defense to communicate perfectly or get burned. It requires a signal caller who can process information in a split second and has the raw arm strength to fire the ball from one hash mark all the way to the opposite sideline. One of the craziest things about this current quarterback room is the sheer size of the guys in it. Keelon Russell is the shortest scholarship quarterback on the roster, and he is 6'3". Mack is an imposing 6'6". You have freshmen coming in at 6'4" and 6'5". DeBoer openly said the extreme height wasn't really by design, but they specifically targeted guys with natural arm talent and abbreviated throwing mechanics. They want the ball out fast before those elite SEC linebackers have a chance to read the play and scrape into the passing lanes. Let's break down Mack first. It is honestly mind-blowing to think that he is entering his fourth year of college football and is still only 20 years old. He played his high school ball out in California at Folsom, which runs a very sophisticated college-level spread offense. As a junior, he threw for almost 3,500 yards and 40 touchdowns. Recognizing how fast he could process the game, he made the rare decision to skip his senior year of high school entirely and enroll early at Washington back in 2023. He spent that freshman year sitting behind Michael Penix Jr. during their run to the national championship game, soaking up every single detail of Grubb's playbook. When DeBoer took the Alabama job, Mack didn't even hesitate. He packed his bags and followed him to Tuscaloosa. That means he has never had to learn a different offensive vernacular his entire college career. Mack showed a lot of guts last season, especially in the playoff quarterfinal against Indiana at the Rose Bowl. When Simpson got hurt in the second half, Mack came in cold against a ruthless defense and actually led the only scoring drive for the Crimson Tide in that game. He knows every single pre-snap read, every protection adjustment, and operates the offense with clinical precision. If the play is drawn up perfectly to beat a specific coverage, Mack is going to execute it without hesitation. But Mack does have some real physical limitations when it comes to the modern game. At 232 pounds, he's built to take SEC hits, but he isn't a guy who is going to hurt you with his legs. If a play breaks down and he needs to escape off schedule, he usually can't do it against elite edge rushers. He relies heavily on the offensive line maintaining a clean pocket. If everything stays on schedule, he's a fantastic game manager. But in the SEC, things rarely stay on schedule. That brings us to the other side of the coin with Keelon Russell. If Mack is the high-floor, reliable option, Russell is the guy with the intoxicating, unlimited ceiling. He's a 19-year-old phenom out of Duncanville, Texas, which is arguably the most demanding and talent-rich high school football environment in the entire country. He led Duncanville to back-to-back state championships in the 6A division. The dude was also a track star, running the 200-meter, 400-meter, and setting records in the relay. That explosive lower body power translates directly to the football field every single time he scrambles out of the pocket. He threw for over 4,000 yards and 55 touchdowns as a high school senior, turning the ball over just 4 times all year. He was the Gatorade National Player of the Year and completely dominated the Elite 11 finals. He was locked in to go to SMU, but DeBoer managed to flip him, securing the cornerstone of their offensive future. When Russell first arrived in Tuscaloosa in January of 2025, he was viewed as a developmental prospect because he only weighed 174 pounds. That is way too light to take hits from SEC defensive tackles. But he practically lived in the weight room and added almost 30 pounds of lean mass, checking in at over 200 pounds by the spring of 2026. We saw a few flashes of brilliance in garbage time blowouts against ULM and Eastern Illinois last season, but the real turning point was the 2026 A-Day spring game. Before that scrimmage in Bryant-Denny Stadium, the coaching staff made it sound like the battle was completely even. By the time the afternoon was over, the entire narrative had shifted. Mack was dealing with a minor injury and struggled right out of the gate with the first-team offense. He threw an ugly interception on an underthrown deep ball and got pulled early just to be safe. Russell, on the other hand, was absolutely electric. He threw 4 touchdowns, ran for another one, and looked totally comfortable escaping pressure behind an offensive line that was visibly struggling to jail. Grubb has talked extensively about how Russell's vision on the run reminds him of Michael Penix Jr. He has this rare, instinctual ability to slide away from unblocked edge rushes while keeping his eyes elevated down the field, allowing him to make huge throws completely off platform. The biggest determining factor in this entire quarterback battle might actually have nothing to do with the quarterbacks themselves. It comes down to the offensive line. Alabama lost a ton of veterans up front, and offensive line coach Adrian Clem is actively trying to piece together a unit using a mix of transfers and inexperienced young guys. Grubb has been brutally honest about this, admitting during spring practice that the line is a long ways away from being consistent. They really struggled to run the ball last year, which put way too much unfair pressure on Ty Simpson. This specific situation heavily favors Keelon Russell. If the offensive line misses a block or gets beat on an interior stunt, putting a stationary target like Mack in the backfield is a recipe for drive-killing sacks. If that same breakdown happens with Russell, his escapability acts as a built-in schematic eraser. A missed block turns into a 15-yard scramble or a crazy throw on the run for a touchdown. Having a highly mobile quarterback forces defenses to play completely differently. They can't just run exotic cover zero blitzes all game because they have to dedicate a spy to contain Russell, which naturally weakens their downfield pass coverage.
Whoever wins the job is also going to dictate how the rest of the skill players produce. Alabama has an incredibly talented wide receiver room right now. If Mack is the starter, you are going to see a heavy dose of precision timing routes. The offense will live in the intermediate zones, feeding the ball to guys like Ryan Williams and Latsier Brooks to keep the chains moving. But if Russell gets the nod, the playbook opens up vertically in a massive way. You have true freshman Cedarian Morgan, a 6'4" freak athlete who earned the nickname the Gulf of Mexico because his catch radius is so massive. During the spring game, the chemistry between Russell and Morgan was undeniable. Russell scrambled away from interior pressure and threw an absolute bomb downfield that Morgan went up and grabbed between 2 defenders. Russell's chaotic play style perfectly matches up with receivers who can win contested catches on broken plays. This also completely changes the dynamic for the rushing attack. With guys like Daniel Hill and E.J. Crowell taking the carries in the backfield, you need every advantage you can get against SEC run defenses. If Austin Mack is under center, defensive ends are going to crash tightly down the line of scrimmage on every single run play. They know Mack isn't going to pull the ball and run on a zone read. But if Keelon Russell is back there, those edge defenders have to stay disciplined and play their assignments. They have to respect the threat of his legs, which artificially widens the rushing lanes for the running backs. That split second of hesitation from a defensive end is all a guy like Daniel Hill needs to break a massive run into the second level. It is also wild to think about the depth this situation creates. National media outlets have tried to overlook Alabama's quarterback room because they don't have an entrenched returning starter, but they are completely missing the point. DeBoer made very aggressive moves with revenue-sharing agreements to make sure neither of these guys jumped into the transfer portal. That means whoever loses this starting battle is instantly going to become the premier backup quarterback in the entire country. In an era where making a deep playoff run means surviving a 15 to 17 game gauntlet, quarterback attrition is basically a guarantee. Having a championship-caliber backup waiting on the bench offers a level of security that most programs can only dream of. Plus, you have highly touted freshmen like Jet Tamalo waiting in the wings, who already showed elite vision in the spring game. When you look at the schedule Alabama has to navigate this year, it is consistently ranked as one of the top 5 hardest slates in the country. They are going up against elite opposing quarterbacks at places like Texas A&M and Georgia, which means the offense has to be capable of keeping pace in high-scoring shootouts. Former Alabama championship quarterback A.J. McCarron actually made a brilliant point about this recently. He noted that having a young, fearless roster can occasionally serve as a massive advantage because those players haven't developed the mental scars that older guys internalize. They don't feel the weight of the pressure yet. Russell embodies that perfectly. Winning back-to-back state titles in the high-pressure cooker of Texas high school football means he isn't going to be intimidated by hostile road environments. At the end of the day, competent, error-free quarterback play just isn't enough to secure a national title in modern college football. You need an elite playmaker under center. While Austin Mack could absolutely guide this team to a 10-win season and a playoff berth by being an efficient game manager, Keelon Russell possesses that transcendent, alien-level ability required to elevate a team past elite adversaries in a postseason environment. The locker room already believes in him. His mobility actively masks the deficiencies of a young offensive line, and his ceiling is completely uncapped. There will definitely be moments of youthful indiscretion where he tries to force a ball into a closing window and turns it over. But Kalen DeBoer and Ryan Grubb know exactly how to nurture those aggressive instincts while slowly curbing the reckless tendencies. The momentum is entirely behind the redshirt freshman right now. The upside is just way too massive to ignore, and Keelon Russell is going to be the guy taking the field when the season kicks off.